Last House on the Left is the latest in what seems a never-ending supply of Hollywood remakes of old horrors. Is this a sign that they've run out of ideas?
Well, first of all, I want to say that I really, really love horror, and I think this new Last House, which in context is obviously a remake of the early 1970s Wes Craven movie, which is very raw and very nasty and not the best film around. But I think this remake is a fine example of basically how little Hollywood seems to care about horror at all. It's basically churning them out. People are going to see it because they haven't seen the original and they think, oh, it's really controversial and oh, it was banned.
Evening.
See, I don't necessarily agree. I think that horror remakes can be fantastic. I mean, you've got Dawn of the Dead recently. Evil Dead 2 is arguably a remake of Evil Dead 1. Some of the greatest horror films of all time are remakes.
Okay, but this is a different era that we're talking about.
It's brilliant.
Oh my God!
About? It's better than the original.
It's very ridiculous.
It's hilarious.
And Evil Dead 2 it is a slightly different thing than something remade years and years later by someone clearly, and it's clearly aimed at kids, or 15-year-old boys, basically.
But you know, I mean, one of the great things about these remakes is that it puts focus onto the original films, and sort of, you know, you get the special edition DVDs of the originals coming out, and, you know, it's a good thing.
All the best horror films at the moment are not Hollywood, or most of them not. They're the Spanish films, like The Orphanage, stuff
Spain,
like the French
Germany,
ones.
France.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but you telling me that those films aren't partly made with an eye on Hollywood money? Those films exist partly because of the fact that Hollywood does love a remake, so it's sort of leading to these independent great films. You've got those.
But what I don't understand is why are we treating these originals, which are often quite schlocky, quite low budget, quite cheesy, why are we treating them like sacred texts and saying that the remakes are somehow, you know, an abomination on the originals, when in all frankness, to the casual viewer, which I am, most of the originals are pretty schlocky films. They're great work.
Yeah. I think a lot of the smaller horror films made in that era, in the 70s, were made completely from the heart, completely committed. Something like Texas Chainsaw, you know, it was made in a matter of days. It was almost 24-hour days they're shooting. It means everything to them. Evil Dead as well. So I think you can't just say people were doing it with cynicism. Whereas these remakes, I think a lot of them are, that they know it's going to have a big opening weekend, opens to about 17 million, everyone's happy.
Because no one really cares about
Isn't all Hollywood doing there in the same way that every year there'll be a Jennifer Aniston rom-com or an Owen Wilson, these kind of films? Isn't all they're doing going, there is a market here, there's a bunch of teenage boys who want some cheap thrills on a Saturday night at their local multiplex, and we can fairly effortlessly turn out those cheap thrills for them.
Yeah, I do think you're right, but I think the difference is I don't think there is enough respect afforded to horror, because while you'll get your rubbish Jennifer Aniston rom-com, you'll also get your bromances and you get your hangovers and you get your other movies. But in terms of Hollywood horror that's any good, I can't think of that many. I mean, there are some really good films that you could, I would hold up to things like Rosemary's Baby and The Omen and The Exorcist. For example, The Orphanage I thought was a brilliant film.
Wonderful.
A lot of good stuff coming out of Europe. But I don't see it coming out of Hollywood. All I see coming out of Hollywood are franchises and remakes.
So with Last House on the Left, can we then say that it's indicative that Hollywood has indeed, when it comes to horror, run out of ideas?
I mean, yeah, Hollywood has run out of ideas, full stop. Sequels, books, comic books, but horror is part of that. I mean, I'm just waiting for them to make remakes of remakes, really, so...
Yeah, I don't even know if they've run out of ideas, I don't think they care, basically.
I think there's only so many ideas out there in the horror genre and cinema as a whole. They're recycling it, they've always done it. What annoys me is the cynicism.